What is going on, everybody? It's Spark and welcome to today's video. And unfortunately, what I've got to say is that I never got, unfortunately, with the previous Grand Prix that I had, the Dutch Grand Prix, I tried recording it on my new PC, and unfortunately I didn't have enough, it failed basically, and I didn't have enough to put together a full episode. So what I'm going to do instead is show the highlights just to kick off of where we are. For that particular round, as it was Holland, it's not my favourite track. Getting a bit of luck, I ran the Red Bull white livery, and thankfully there, once we get round into recording, I'll just show you what to do. Thank you to Owen, obviously, for the title card. And once we got round into the race, they ended up qualifying in P14. Was not a good start for us at all. As the lights go out, everyone went across the line. Thankfully, as you see on there, we do get up ahead of Lance Stroll. And with this particular first corner, I was very aggressive going into lap 1. And Coulthard, our teammate as well, did a brilliant job to qualify in 8th place. But for us, it's in 12th. I think it's kind of ironic now that we're putting Coulthard back in old Red Bull colours, given that he used to drive for Red Bull before Sebastian Vettel came along. The track started to get wet at about lap 17. So there I was finally in about 10th or place, finally fighting for points. That's what it seemed. As you can see, the Haas of Mazepin getting in the way, and he was just a complete nuisance throughout the whole race. But for us, it looks very, very promising, as you'll see what comes round to the end, because what actually happened was that the track got wet, but then the safety car actually came out at a pretty good time for us. As you can see just there, we're just slowing down, so the safety car eventually had to come out on track. And while everyone opted to stay out as the track was drying, we actually opted to come in for dries when everybody else had to, anybody else who still was on intermediates had to pit, and that put us into the lead. And for once, I'm not the one that actually made that strategy call. It was actually Jeff. So for once, Jeff actually produces a 200 IQ play that put us, where we had no qualifying pace at all, into a position where we were comfortably able to win the Grand Prix from Yuki Tsunoda. And actually, I do owe quite a bit to Tsunoda there for holding up the rest of the field for me. So that was a very successful race, and it's such a shame that I never got to bring you a full episode, because for those who know, I've still recently just bought myself my first gaming PC. So that means that I can hopefully stream and record at a much higher quality now. And hopefully, I've gone this way through Movavi as my new editor, so hopefully it's coming out at decent quality. But looking forward to the next round at Monza. It's a very simple track, but I'm thinking about potentially putting off some upgrades, and I'll tell you why. Because we have actually got ourselves, it's coming to near the end of the season, so I highly suspect it's getting near that point where they may announce a regulation change. So I'm hoping by saving enough points that I can save as many of the upgrades as I possibly can, just so we don't fall off the cliff in terms of performance, because we're still trying to get this car to World Championship position. But I think with the announcement that F1 2022 is actually going to be announced this week, I think it'll probably already be announced by the time this video goes out. I'm not really thinking we're going to get much life of this beyond the beyond this season of career mode. So we're probably going to finish this one then, and finish this season, get as much as I can out of that, and that would be essentially it for 2021 in terms of MyTeam mode for me. We're going to be waiting for. I'm actually going to make it via PC, so I'll order it via Steam. I'll also order it via Xbox as well, so I can continue league racing. Does mean it's going to empty quite a lot of money out of my pocket, but that's kind of what we do this for. Formula 1 is the most important thing. As far as practice went for Monza, it was relatively straightforward. I had to go and get some bonuses there from doing the quick practice stuff, but then again, it was pretty standard. Coulthard as well was very, very good in terms of delivering on the resource points. We found ourselves pretty much getting the maximum out there in terms of that practice session. But Monza is a track that I'm really looking forward to, because actually, as it turns out, we actually have a very powerful engines behind our car. As you would have seen, I think it probably would have came up previously, is that the Red Bull is actually the best car in terms of engine power on this grid so far. But still, I think for us, we've got ourselves to a point where I think it's a track that doesn't reward, it rewards engine power and it rewards straight line speed. I think we got plenty of that. So I'm very confident that we, IRL Racing, can be very, very competitive here at Monza. As you probably noticed, well, that in line with what I said after the Belgian video, I had turned the difficulty down towards, I have turned it down towards 100 AI because I just wasn't coping previously. And now that we've turned it down, we're going to see how things go over here, and hopefully by the end of the season, we should be highly skilled enough for us to take it up. So there we have it. The only other thing I'm going to upgrade in the car is I'm going to propose a brake upgrade, because one thing I'm finding is that with the car gets faster, I need the brakes to be able to stop the car. Otherwise, I'm running the risk of going into the wall, or worse, just losing loads and loads of track time. So that's the only other upgrade I could think to put on the car. But now we are going into the qualifying round at Monza. So I'm feeling pretty confident here. I've just made a few changes to my setup as well. I've gone a little bit higher on the wings. I've gone to I went to about 3.7 initially, but I think I'll turn them up to 5.7 as well. Yeah, as you just see right there, I just turned them up. But we're also going to see how competitive we are. We're going to see that if the car should go this way, hopefully Coulthard will be not too far behind us. But we set an initial time of 1 minute 18.3. As you see, Sergio Perez just best that with a 17.9. I'm convinced that we can get at least in the 17s at some point. I think it will be a good way to tap everything off with this qualifying session, because, like I said, while I'm not the fastest driver to ever play the game, I think getting it down to that lower times would be good enough for me, I think is what I'm trying to say. But once we got round to the Ascari chicane and coming round to the Parabolica, I haven't made that much gains in terms of lap time here, which is fine for us because currently we're sitting in 3rd place so far in the qualifying standings, and I don't really see us going out there and potentially doing another lap and ruining a set of tyres. I think we're going to be comfortably through, as we do go a tenth faster on our time. As coming round to the standings, as you'll see here, not just myself, but David Coulthard comfortably through as well. We're 3/10 or so up on DC, so that's not bad. And I think that's kind of like, if there's going to be a gap behind two teams, I think that's an acceptable one, because I don't want to smash Coulthard. I want Coulthard to be up there with me, because the important thing is making sure that both our drivers are up there scoring points. As you'll see in qualifying, I felt pretty confident with this one to at least try out a lap on the medium tyre, but all things considered, it didn't actually go as well that I wanted it to. It sadly, I just couldn't get it right there. As you'll see, as I come round into the first corner, the Rettifilio, it just feels I just understeered the whole thing, and I just lost so much time and grip. And as you'll see on the screen, that lap was only good enough for about 9th or 10th place, so we likely wouldn't not have been safe anyway. And I'd rather come in and save the life of the medium, because I may need them in case of all kinds of safety cars or any kind of ridiculous changes in strategy. But what I'm going to show you guys is my fastest lap around the Monza circuit as we come down to 350 or so kilometers an hour. The top speed on this car is absolutely insane. As we go down into the chicane, we upshift early to 3rd. Much better exit for us generally. Across this series, like you may have noticed, I found that my exits out the corners have been particularly weak. They've never been my strongest point, and to get an exit like that out of the red field, so we actually go purple in the first sector. As you come down to the second chicane, had to take that in 3rd. Ideally, I would have wanted to have done that in 4th, but across the two Lesmos, just about on keeping it on so we don't invalidate the time. I've only got standard rules on, so maybe for F1 2022, I'll probably turn that up into straight. To come down to the Ascari chicane, we're about 6/10 up on our best, so I'm confident now, as long as we keep this very, very sensible, we should easily be able to get this into the 1 minute 17s. But that was not the exit we needed out of Ascari. I think we've actually lost a little bit of time to make that happen. What we need is a great exit out of the Parabolica as we go down to 5th gear, coast a little bit, and then just sharply pick up the throttle there. Finally, we've got the confidence. We've only got the exit out there, and are we going to make it into the 17s and come across the line? Yes, we do. We do a 17.997, which is good enough for 3rd. And I think realistically, that could put us potentially, dare I say it, in a shot for pole position. Coulthard as well gets through in 7th. And as you can see, all the drivers in front of us will be starting on the soft. So no one's played any kind of blind us in terms of strategy there. We're all going to be pretty much on equal pegging, but Monza is one of those tracks where you need... it feels like, I don't know whether the overcut or undercut is more powerful than the other, but it's definitely one of those tracks where you definitely need the speed, because it is quite hard to overtake over here. But I think definitely in real life F1, and once you get stuck in a DRS train, that can be a little bit overpowering in terms of what you're able to do with the car. But as you'll see on the screen, we are going to leave our best. Well, actually, we're going to attempt on only one run here, because I don't think there's any point going out now to waste a set of tyres that we may need later on. We do set an initial best of 18.1, which at the time was good enough for pole position, but as we know through the last, as you see there, Lando Norris goes faster, so we saw through the previous qualifying session, everyone can at least go a little bit faster, as we're actually down on our first set of time. It's 17.7 now for Valtteri Bottas, who, as you would know from my earlier videos, the game suddenly decided to make him, of all people, my main rival. And as you'll see on the screen, I finally take the chicane through 4th gear, and that really helps me in terms of getting a little bit of extra speed. Unfortunately, the exit out of the first last mode was terrible, so I lost about a 10th as we come down to the second DRS zone on the track. We are coming out to the Ascari chicane. We're only a 10th up on our best. We're only good enough there for 7th place, with DC putting in time just ahead of us. We go around the Ascari chicane, but that was beautifully taken, but we're still losing time on the straights. We're about 2/10 up, so we should just beat our best time for what we did in the last session. But depending on the exit we get out of the Parabolica, which is coming up now, it's a very, very wide apex that we take, but sadly that just eats into our time. We cut inwards to the track to see if we can make up any lost ground, any lost deficits. As we come across the line, we know that's not going to be good enough for pole position, but that is going to be good for 5th place. We only just beat the time that we did in Quali 2, but I think all things considered with our track, that is a really, really good, strong showing for us. And a good showing for David Coulthard as well. Only a 10th and a half behind us in 7th place. Only the McLaren of Lando Norris separating us. And this is what I was talking about on the screen. They decided to make Valtteri Bottas, of all people, my main rival. And that sadly means we are getting trumped in terms of the driver. We're trying to win any driver allocation points. As you'll see on the screen, we're edging closer and closer and closer towards getting level 20 for our team acclaim, which means we would be able to sign our 4th sponsor. But hopefully we'll be able to live to see that day at the end of this series, because like I said, with the new game coming out, lifespan here is very, very short. But let's see what the race holds up in front.
It's time for the Italian Grand Prix once again, here at the beloved and iconic Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. With the lowest downforce and drag of any circuit in the season, expect to see drivers making the most of the slipstream effect here today. We're 12 miles northeast of Milan for today's Grand Prix at a Monza circuit where we can expect top speeds of around 215 miles per hour. 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with 7 of those coming in the form of chicanes, and with a good slipstream and DRS open, there should be plenty of opportunity for some passing here today. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat, Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, the owner driver, and Norris, Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, and Pierre Gasly, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel, and Tsunoda. Stroll, Raikkonen, David Coulthard, they've taken a grid penalty, and Antonio Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, Russell, and Nikita Mazepin. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
And unfortunately, as you will have seen, David Coulthard has got a 10-place grid penalty, so it's going to be a struggle for him to score a big haul of points this time around. But we're starting in 5th place and we're feeling pretty comfortable. So all we have to do is just make sure we look after our tyres and make up some places hopefully at the start. And we could be on, I think, for at least a podium, just as long as there are no weird-ass safety cars to throw us away and throw us completely off our strategy. But we're going to pray that Coulthard makes a recovery as well. It's us versus the 2 Mercedes versus the 2 Red Bulls as all 5 lights come on in Monza, and we are underway, and it's a okay start for us, but we get a little bit of wheel spin there, and that knocks us completely off our stride as Norris actually overtakes us coming down into the first corner. But we have got a clear space in front of us. We're going to use that to retake 5th position from him. We're going to avoid, and we make a little bit of contact there. I'm not sure whether my front wing has actually got damaged there, and that was a very tight one indeed.
With tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them.
And it seems like we've actually got away with it, that we don't actually have any damage on our front wing, which for me would have been an absolute massacre, which meant that would have been the end of our chances of scoring major points. And once again, we get a bad exit out of the chicane. Norris is right on the back of us, and we're already over nearly a second down on Lewis Hamilton, and crucially out of DRS zone. That's not the best way to be in. I mean, we haven't lost anything, so it's an okay start, I think, for me. But unfortunately, we haven't made anything either. We've just, as long as we stay within a second of Lewis Hamilton in the car, which is very understeery in the corners, particularly around the track in Monza, we should at least be safe to the McLaren behind us, and so we can challenge, hopefully, the Mercedes ahead of us. Red Bull has certainly been looked to have had the fastest car around basically all year, but Mercedes are still fast enough to sort of keep them in check, and at least with our straight line speed, we're certainly able to stay well. The IIRL recovery on this car is absolutely immense, to a point where we can deploy overtake
David is in the pits.
pretty much where we need to with no consequence. And let's see what's happening here. Coulthard is actually in the pits, so all the penalties that he had, and now he's got himself a pit lane. And let's see what's going on here, and it looks like, oh, they're changing his front wing. So what happened to Coulthard there in the opening lap? DC having his sort of usual luck, almost like it's kind of apt to his teammates with Mark Webber, because the amount of luck this guy is getting this race is just absolutely none. So let's see what happened in the first corner. So he's fighting alongside, ironically, his old teammate Kimi Raikkonen, that he was with the McLaren, and he there just hops onto and just touches Kimi there, and it looks like that's damaged his front wing, and that's brought him into the pit. So it's far from ideal situation here, as we see, oh, a VSC has been deployed, and with that, Yuki Tsunoda is actually out of the Grand Prix. So I wonder if it was his retirement that brought it out. It's more than likely it would. So let's see actually what happened with Tsunoda. Okay, so, oh, I see. So Leclerc's, I don't know whether he's locked up or whatever, and there's that, oh, and Tsunoda's just gone right into the back of Charles Leclerc, who's just slowing down to a halt. And it looks like it was a mechanical problem that actually brings him down. Let's see what happened from Tsunoda's perspective. The AI just got flustered there. He just got flustered, and it just crashed into the back of Leclerc. So not really much what to say. With the VSC ending, though, we got plenty of delta, so we can actually accelerate, and that has helped us a treat. That's actually brought us closer to Hamilton and enabled us to ditch Norris somewhere, even though I say that when he's actually gaining on me, so probably not the best timed comment in the world, but hey, it's you take what you can get. But thankfully, as long as we don't do anything stupid between the two Lesmos, that keeps us within DRS range of Hamilton, and that will protect us from the McLaren behind us. And as you'll see on the screen, that should just about do it. So we've got DRS, we can deploy overtake as well, so they should protect us somewhat from Lewis Hamilton as we come down to the end of the next lap. And this is where I actually think I get a pretty good run on Hamilton, and crucially for him, he's out of DRS zone of his teammate Bottas, so realistically we could line ourselves up for a good shot at actually overtaking Lewis Hamilton for the Grand Prix for 4th place. As we go down to the inside, coming up to the Rettifidio, down to the inside, we almost barge him out of the way, but we brake very, very early, so we go down the inside, and it's a very laggy exit out of the corner, because as I say, the car is very understeery, and Hamilton is not giving up, especially as we go around Curva Grande. Do we manage to hold on to the position? It looks like we will, because the overtake deployment on this car is simply electric, pun intended, as we come down to the next chicane. We actually jumped the chicane somewhat, and we have to be so careful with these curves. The amount of times that I've done practice before here, and actually going over those curves, which is going to damage the floor of the car. And as you know, sim damage is on, and I'm very surprised that, thankfully, we haven't been able to damage our car yet. As we see with the tyres on that 5, they're relatively okay in terms of performance. And given that we've done a lap of these as well in qualifying, it was just 2 laps that we did. And thankfully, that's tyre wear upgrades for you. That's tyre wear upgrades really saving the day for us as we come down to lap 7, and it's getting very close between all of us. I mean, Hamilton 3/10 behind us, and it looks like it's going to be about a 4, 5, 6, 7 car DRS train. So all the way down to Pierre Gasly behind. As actually, when I record the replay, the time is all over the place. As Sergio Perez goes round to the outside to overtake Max Verstappen for the lead, and it looks like Checo has done it, but no, Max is coming back. He looks like he's got a better exit outside the chicane as we go round Curva Grande. The Red Bulls infighting with each other. They've got to be careful just in case Valtteri Bottas pounces on the pair of them, but Perez versus Verstappen into the chicane. Verstappen goes round the outside and he maintains the position, and that puts Bottas in close range, but ironically on the back foot as well, because it's, as you'll see visually on your screen, it's about line of stern between about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars as they come across the 2 Lesmos, and thankfully for us, that's going to put us right into position behind Valtteri Bottas. We're about a 10th behind, and with DRS coming up to the Escaro chicane, we got around to the inside. Can we make it? Could we possibly do 2 cars in once as well? I don't think we're going to take that risk. We break, but we get the move done, and that's us into podium positions, overtaking the Mercedes on pure merit. Let's say pure merit have we overtaken the Mercedes of Bottas and Hamilton. Now we've got the 2 Red Bulls. Can we do anything with them? And this is turning into be what could be a brilliant race for us. Unfortunately, Coulthard's still languishing behind, thanks as a result of his tyre to his pit stop. All I can hope is that a full safety car brings him back into play, and going down into lap 9, this is crucial stuff. As you see right inside, the 2 Red Bulls are at it again with yellows on the 7th. So I think that's Antonio Giovinazzi. He's just pulled himself out of the race. And as for us, that puts Perez on the back foot. But knowing how powerful our car is, we deploy overtake. We're going to do potentially an Alonso v Vettel around the outside of Curva Grande. Yes, we are. And we're going to put ourselves towards the inside for the chicane. Can we make the move stick on Sergio Perez to go down to the inside? Yes, we can. What a move from us to go into 2nd place with one of the most powerful cars on the grid. And that is just, we've overtaken a Red Bull. That just shows we come leaps and bounds within IIRL racing. And that for us is absolutely incredible to see as Verstappen now comes round the final corner. This is the start where those think about the hard tyre, and Verstappen is thinking about the hard tyre because he's coming into the pit lane now. What is happening here? That means we have inherited the lead purely on merit. Now this is an opportunity, hopefully, if we can extend this stint by a couple more laps than what we originally planned, we could put it on the medium tyre and be on a faster tyre towards the end of the race. Then that could give us a realistic shot of actually winning the Grand Prix. As behind you see on the timing screen, so it looks like Perez and Bottas are fighting each other, which is doing wonders for me, which means I can pull away, and I even set the fastest burst sector, thanks to owing to a little bit of DRS there from Max Verstappen. But looking at the tyre wear, we've only done 32% on the front left, which means that we are really getting as much life out of these tyres as we possibly can as we come down to the 2nd Lesmo, and this is turning into what could be an absolutely promising race for us and probably our best victory. As you see behind me, we have Bottas, Ricciardo, Perez. All the main leaders now are coming into the pits, which means they're now thinking about the medium tyre, and they'll be interested to see where they come out in relation to Max Verstappen. Knowing Verstappen is obviously going to be on fresher, I think, hard tyres, it should be quite crucial to see where he comes out. But no, he's actually comes out in 3rd, and Vettel is actually yet to stop. So like me, Vettel is doing a blinder in terms of managing his soft tyres. But with 23 or so seconds, it's going to be very touch and go to see if we actually come out in front of the Red Bull. I don't think we're going to be able to pull it off. But it is lap 12, and as long as we pull out enough time, it should be, well, anything's possible. And the gap stays the same in terms of what we do in the next lap. The gap stays the same, but we're getting up to 42% now. So I think realistically, it's time now to come in. And oh, what has happened here? It's a full safety car! A full safety car has been deployed. So there we go for us. It's unbelievable stuff here. And let's see what happened. It looks like a collision that's done it. Oh, and Tsunoda Gasly has gone into the back of Ocon. Oh, and someone, and that's Lance Stroll into the back of Carlos Sainz. That is what has happened there. The Aston Martin, just almost like Yuki Tsunoda, just did not know he was there. That is unbelievable stuff, but that is going to land the race right into our hands as we come into the pit lane to change onto the hard tyre with a full course safety car coming out. That means we will take the lead of this Italian Grand Prix. This is unbelievable stuff. The Italian Grand Prix always sets up a bit of a cracker for us in terms of a spectacle. Like the last two races have been absolutely electric now. Let's see what goes on in terms of where Verstappen comes out. It's about 5 seconds behind us, but that puts us in a brilliant position. But Verstappen, being on hard compound tyres, he's going to be victim to Hamilton and Norris and anybody else behind him that's gone onto that hard compound tyre. Once we got round to lap 15, the safety car actually decides to pull in, and looking on my screen, and thankfully I managed to get the tyre temperatures in a pretty decent window. Thankfully there's a lot of straights on Monza in which you can do that, but for us, we leave it until virtually the last minute to restart the race, to go over the line. It's 2 tenths between us and Max Verstappen. We're going to go to this aerial shot, and this is how much the Red Bull is gaining on us in a straight line. We may have one of the fastest cars in a straight line, but the power of slipstream is just incredible so far in this game. As we're coming down to Curva Grande and then towards the next chicane at 4 and 5, this is just how close it is. It's still about 2 or so tenths with everyone bouncing up each other, and that thankfully has brought David Coulthard back into the play. Coulthard, who has been the victim of such bad luck, as long as he stays outside of any trouble, he should be able to rack up some points now, which well, I've proven at least to be a pretty decent car around this Monza track. So things are starting to look very, very promising for us this time. But the crucial thing on lap 16 for us now is that we have got to break the 1 second barrier between ourselves and Max Verstappen, and on medium tyres I'm not actually getting away from him. So Max clearly riled, he clearly knows what he has to do to have a chance to win this race, and we're not pulling away from him. We've got to double down, really, just find the grip on these medium tyres, and while Verstappen's on the older tyres, they won't burn out as quickly as mine will, and more importantly, Max will also be able to go he'll be able to go much, much longer than us.
Alonso, they had some kind of mechanical problem.
And so the yellow flags are out with about 1 lap to go before DRS activates, and now Vettel is out, and that has brought out yet another safety car, and that buys us a couple more laps of breathing space before Sebastian Vettel arrives. So let's see what happens here to Vettel as Alonso has a problem, and yet again the AI just do not know where they just can't read in front of them, and Sebastian Vettel, who's been one of our key rivals throughout this career mode, crashes out of the Aston Martin. So that is a pointless race for Aston Martin, and that at least helps Coulthard, because Coulthard will be, you know, he'll be upwards further through the field. As we come up to lap 19, the safety car is, I think it's due to come in around the end of this lap. I think with the game it's usually about 3 laps or so before they come in. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But as you see in front, I'm trying to keep the tyres warmed up, and usually if you get them above 80 degrees, typically that is quite a safe window. It's about how much these cars need to find some grip, but it's how much they stay in their blankets as well with these tyres. And there we have it, folks. The safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and that leaves us with, when do we drop it? When do we decide? I think we're going to leave it quite late, as we have done previously, but we know what we need to do now to make life work for us. We have got to get ourselves out of range from Max Verstappen, because he's seeing this win getting away from him, and he's obviously leading the World Championship at the moment between himself, and he's also got Sergio Perez to contend with as well. We're leaving it very late to drop it, but while we do drop it, we actually miss a gear shift for once. I don't know how the hell we've done that, and that's put Verstappen right on the back of us here. Lewis Hamilton getting in on it as well. Verstappen's got the inside into the chicane. We go round to the outside, but we just managed to hold on. just managed to hold on as we hold on to the lead from Max Verstappen. Now this is our chance. We have got to get on with it if we really, really want to win this Grand Prix, because Verstappen, still riled from losing that to us on the safety car, he's got to be pitch perfect in chasing us, considering he's on the harder tyre. But he didn't do too bad of a job of it beforehand, so we're not going to count our chickens before they hatch. But Verstappen did not get the best exit out of that final corner, as we save a little bit of ours, because it's really on the main straight, which I think is the most effective way trying to use it. But for us, hopefully the medium tyres should be coming into their own, as we're already getting close to 7/10 of advantage on Max Verstappen. Thankfully for us, that should mean we may be able to salvage something from this race, as we see David Coulthard making up a place. Now he's finally in the points. DC has overtaken Latifi to get into 10th place, and now he sets off after his old teammate Kimi Räikkönen, who coincidentally gave him the front wing damage that he got earlier on in the session. But this is the time for DC to put one over his old teammate, who they shared the McLaren for 3 years with. But in terms of sharing this corner, it's advantage DC as it goes round to the outside. But he gets, looks like he's got the better line. But no, actually Räikkönen is actually fizzling him out somewhat as we go round Curva Grande. But this time it looks like Coulthard is the one that's got a little bit more in terms of speed, in terms of track position. It goes down to the chicane, and Coulthard has done it. DC has made it work. He is now in ninth. He is now in ninth place, and he's got George Russell to chase behind him as well. As now we've got ourselves. We're coming up to, I think it's not long now before we finally get to that second window. It's lap 22 now, so not too far from when the safety car came in. And it looks like for now we're finally putting the necessary distance between ourselves and the championship leader. I just wish it was more in the championship and not not just on the actual track. As we see in front of us, Coulthard's quest for points continues, and once again it's on his old team at Williams, but Russell is defending very aggressively there to go to the Ascari chicane, and that is 8th place there for David Coulthard. And I have a feeling that may be as good as it's going to get for DC, because he's got Valtteri Bottas ahead of him to catch. But as for us though, at the end of lap 24, we're building quite a comfortable gap now to Max Verstappen. So unless, I think the fastest lap time was around a low 1 minute 20, so we could play this very, very sensibly and go for a fastest lap hopefully by the end of this race, and that'll be a brilliant, brilliant way to end it. I mean, I know obviously turning down a lot of people put it down to turning down the difficulty to 100, but I had to find a way to make this series like we can still be competitive as well. Bearing in mind this will be more than likely probably the only one that I'm doing before the new game comes out. So I'm at least going to try and end this on a high to give me some positive momentum going into the next game as we come round the corner. And I mean, we've been managing, typically the understeer of this game, we've been managing it quite well, as later on the next lap we're going to have quite a big battle here between from 4th down to 8th place, and Valtteri Bottas hits the back of the McLaren and he loses his front wing. Coulthard has managed to catch up to the back of them, and that should be an easy pass thankfully for David Coulthard as it comes round to Curva Grande. But no, he's not David, he's lost his front wing. Pass him, come on, pass him. I will give you a £2 million bonus in your contract if you pass him now. And this, come on, he doesn't even have a front wing, and you're just sitting behind him there in the Lesmos. I gave you your other chance, DC. Come on now, lad. What is going on here? You should have passed him ages ago. As it comes down now to the final, he finally gets past him, and God, that was painful to watch. That's like asking Valtteri Bottas to drive in the wet. I don't really know what to say to that. That was genuinely one of the most painful laps I've seen somebody do, because he should have passed him easily, as we actually set the fastest lap on the final lap, and we are just going to enjoy a nice victory lap. I don't really think anyone can beat that as of now. And this has been a race that we have won purely on merit, just showing the leaps and bounds we've actually come as a team. as we come round the Curva Grande. Coulthard has made, he's done well to come back to 7th. It's just a shame that it took him 5 and 8 years to be able to pass Valtteri Bottas. Fernando? That was not in the script. Is this cell plan just to take away my chance of getting 26 points in this career mode? L plan is getting that fastest lap, but we could be beating it, but we run very wide in the Ascari chicane, so I don't think we're actually going to top our time. I think fastest lap is going to go to Nando, but it's a weird one. It's a weird one because we've... Actually, no, it's not a weird one at all. It's actually a really, really good one as you come across the line. It's our 3rd win of the season. Get in there!
Yes! Come on, boys!
They made great use of the clear air today then and didn't allow anyone to exploit the slipstream behind them. What a great win here at Monza. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
Here comes your top 3 making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
And victory at Monza. That sounds sweet. In a car that, let's be honest, if we were going to do it any place, it had to be here. And completely ignoring the fact that we won the Dutch Grand Prix as well, it's looking pretty good for us now in terms of the driver standings, and thankfully Coulthard managed to salvage P7 as well, so good points for him. We are in 4th place, but we have absolutely no right to be, as you'll see above, Max Verstappen is clearly looking to dominate the challenge. We are ahead of Lewis freaking Hamilton in the World Championship, and IIRL is in 4th place. 4th place. Don't ask how I've done that, because I've got no idea. I think winning 3 races will probably have something to do with it, though, as you would imagine. But I'll take whatever I can get. As you'll see, for once, we actually get a bit of a jump on Valtteri Bottas in the rivalry. But as you'll see, there's no real chance for us to actually overturn anything. So it's just bragging rights we're going to get out of it, it seems. But we add a lot to both our driver acclaim and our team acclaim. We're heading closer to a fourth sponsor, as well as a level 3 of the driver perks. But as I said earlier on in this series, with the new game coming out and the amount of rate I'm able to come out and actually produce these, which isn't very fast admittedly, I think this is going to we'll just wrap this up this season and then wait for the next game to come out. I think that's realistically the best way that we're going to go forward. So there we have it, guys. We're going to wrap up the episode there. So thank you all very, very much for watching. I very hope that you've enjoyed this episode of my team. And obviously, apologies for not being able to do the previous round at Holland, but that's 2 wins on the trot for us, so that makes it a very, very good streak for us so far. If you like the episode, then do hit that like button and leave a comment and let me know how you thought. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe for some more regular F1 gaming content. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've been Spark, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.